Hi, this is Kirk, the bariatric carnivore. Why do Brussels sprouts suddenly start tasting good? I mean, they don't taste like they did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, Brussels sprouts were the bane of my existence. My mom tried like crazy to get me to eat them. I would go without dessert. I would go without dinner. I'd go to bed hungry. I couldn't get the dog to eat them. I mean, no kid that I knew liked Brussels sprouts, even though every one of our parents tried to force them down our throats. They tasted horrible. That's the way I grew up. That's the way I remember them. Fast forward, in about 2008 or 9, I was out with some friends, and they were just raving about these Brussels sprouts at this restaurant. And I was like, I still had remembrances and cold shivers of what they were like 40 years previous. And I was like, I'm not touching them. And they said, no, you really need to try them. They've changed. So I tried one. And my God, it was delicious. I mean, at the time I was doing keto, and so I would fry them up in bacon fat, and I just thought they were the best thing ever. I mean, they tasted sweet, they were different, and I was like, man, I can't believe my taste buds changed that much. Well, frankly, I was fooled. No, my taste buds didn't change. Brussels sprouts changed. Because in the 1990s, a bunch of Dutch botanists decided they were going to get rid of the sulfur compounds that made Brussels sprouts bitter and change them. And now they've become a hyper-palatable food that's delicious. Now the question is, what did that do to the nutritional content? I mean, the reason why your parents were trying to force you to eat Brussels sprouts over the years was because they were nutritious. Okay, now they've made them delicious, but what did that do to the nutrition? And frankly, I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows. It's difficult to get this information off of Google. There's almost like a conspiracy on the Google sites because they're trying to tout and get you to eat more fruits and vegetables. The government's trying to get you to eat more fruits and vegetables, but they're not really telling you what's been happening to nutrition content. And frankly, that's something you need to be paying attention to. Because of monocrop agriculture, and when I say monocrop agriculture, I'm talking about where most of the produce that you find at the supermarket comes from, and they are from factory farms. Everything's in nice, neat little rows. They are planting GMO seeds. These are genetically modified seeds from a company like from Monsanto, and they use Monsanto fertilizer to make sure that it grows up very quickly and it has great shelf life. And they use Monsanto pesticides to keep all the bugs away. So you've got this nice little sterile plant that's pretty devoid of nutrition. How much have we diluted this stuff down to? Well, from 5 to 40%, according to some estimates. There are people that are studying the dilution of mineral content in things like broccoli, which a lot of people consider to be a highly nutritious food. But it's got 40% less mineral content than it used to have just 40, 50 years ago. That's a pretty significant drop. And if you are basing your food choices on vegetables, realize that these are not the same things that you grew up with. They are certainly not the same things that your grandparents used. They are significantly different. They've been genetically altered to maintain their life on the shelf and to be able to be transported very easily from one part of the country to another. Frankly, I find it absolutely absurd that environmentalists want to tell us that we need to eat vegetables to save the planet while we're getting quinoa coming up from South America, apples coming from Washington State. It makes no sense at all. They're transporting these vegetables all over the place because frankly, we don't grow a lot of vegetables here in Oklahoma. I mean, anything that we get, lettuces and stuff like that, most of the year is going to be coming from someplace else. I mean, we've got, I look at some of the origin packages of origin, and you got grapes and stuff from Chile, and I'm just like, how is that ecologically sound? I mean, it's got to be flown up here somehow in a way that makes sense so they can get it from where it grew to up here while it's still fresh. Well, sometimes they don't even have to worry about that because Washington State, their apple association, has been hybriding and genetically modifying apples to make sure they maintain maximum shelf life so they can last a year or more. And they put them in the right chemical bath and gases, and they can keep those around for a long time. Now, you may have noticed when I was a kid, you'd get an apple in your lunchbox. It fit my little kid hand. Now I can't even hold a Fuji apple in my hands as an adult. And they are significantly sweeter, and they're bigger, and they're much sweeter. Now, some of the food scientists will say that's because they've been removing some of the bitterness from it and making the flesh more firm. But what does that do to the nutrition content? And frankly, I'm hard-pressed to figure that out. I keep looking for it, trying to figure that type of information out, but I don't see it. And if you don't think math errors happen in agriculture sciences, I want you to consider the case of spinach. Back in the beginning of the 20th century, a German scientist put the decimal place in the wrong spot when he was trying to figure out the iron content of spinach. And that myth still pretty much exists today. Thanks to the Popeye cartoon, people think that spinach is a great source of iron for the diet. And frankly, that's not true. That decimal place was significantly off. And that because of that, spinach is a horrible source of iron. And matter of fact, that the amount of iron that's in spinach isn't really bioavailable. And then you got to consider something else. If you're trying to build your diet on vegetables, realize that the vast majority of all the plants on this planet really want to kill you. They're not edible. About 4% of the plants are what botanists would consider edible. But what's interesting is we only focus on about 30. Most people, including most vegans, only eat about 30 vegetable types in their entire lifetime. And we're importing them from all over the planet, and we're hybriding them, and who knows what the nutrition content is of them. And frankly, I'm looking at it going, I don't think that's any way to build a diet in the long run. So, when somebody tries to tell me that they're trying to save the planet by eating vegetables, I'm looking at them going, frankly, I think you're nuts. I don't think you can save the planet by eating just a bunch of monocropped 30 types of vegetables that are coming from all over the world that have been hybridized, and who knows what's been happening to their makeup that makes up their nutrition that we think is good, but may not necessarily be so. So when you're looking at, trying to build a diet on vegetables, take a look at it from a big picture perspective. Are you getting the nutrition that you think you're getting from it? Because there's a dilution effect, and it's very serious. Realize that we're only eating about 30 types of vegetables, and you may be thinking that you're eating the rainbow, but when you really look at it, you're not eating very much at all. And then there's this other weird problem, and this is where the fate of humanity may hang in the balance when you really think about it. We've been allowing companies like Monsanto and others to genetically alter the seeds. And they make these seeds. There's a scientist in India that has been fighting tooth and nail to keep GMO crops out of India, because once you put in those seeds, you need to buy their fertilizer and their herbicides because they're all genetically designed to work together. Here's the problem. What happens if some sort of disease affects all the GMO crops? We don't have the biodiversity that we used to have. And it could wipe them out. And if you don't think that can happen, think about things like the boll weevil. The boll weevil was a critter that started affecting the cotton crops in the deep south, absolutely wiped them out. And people that had been growing cotton on their land for generations suddenly saw their entire crops destroyed, and they couldn't grow any more cotton on that land for a long time because of this weevil that was infecting all their crops. Well, thankfully, there was a rather brilliant guy who, Carver, who said, hey, replace the cotton with growing peanuts. And they started growing peanuts, and there's a couple of very interesting cases where some cities in Georgia actually made significantly more money by growing peanuts and became the peanut capital of that particular area. And the town was saved, ironically, because of the boll weevil. People made a lot more money growing peanuts, and they did better things for the soil, and they replenished it. But one of the problems with this monocrop agriculture model that we've got is they don't rotate crops. They're just growing broccoli after broccoli after broccoli and all these pieces of land, and they're depleting the mineral content. And you're not getting it if you were trying to rely on vegetables. And you can think, well, I'm getting my food from organic sources or something like that. Okay, frankly, that's fine if you think that's going to be working, but I think there's a reason why so many people that are vegan are so nutrient deprived. They are buying their stuff because the best produce that they can, but it's nutriently devoid. So something to consider. I mean, if you're thinking about adding in plants, just realize that and many times you're just buying a very expensive piece of water with not much nutrients in it because it's being diluted out, and you're supporting a monocrop agricultural system that may be spelling the doom of our civilization. I mean, they've had to create seed banks to save heritage seeds, so in case another disease crop like a boll weevil appears and wipes out the GMO seeds, we've got something to start building back up on. That's kind of a terrifying prospect, but that's a modern day reality because we've allowed big corporations to control our food. So what do you do about it? Well, frankly, that's why I'm just saying the heck with it. Get out of the system. Start supporting your local rancher. I mean, I can't save the world, but I can save myself and my family, and I can save a local rancher. And if I can help keep them in business and get good food, I've got a source of it. I don't know about the rest of the world, but frankly, I can't look after the rest of the world. I'm not in that position, but I can look after me. Because in this fight for our nutrition, frankly, you're all alone in this fight. But we can all be alone in this together by sharing information and ideas. So this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I try to put out a new message every single workday. If you like this message, please hit the like and subscribe button. I sincerely thank those who have, because that's what helps support a channel and helps us to grow this message to even more people. And be aware, just because you're looking at a nutrition label and their government's claiming that it's got this much nutrition, that may not be the case. It could be 5 to 40% less thanks to the dilution effect. And frankly, they're all working against you. So the only one looking after you is you. So start studying hard and figuring out what's really the most nutritious food out there. Frankly, I think it's really good meat. But you have to figure this out for yourself. We'll talk to you soon.